All right, cool. We are recording. Well, hey man, thank you so much for joining us today. Man, I'm so excited to have Michael McDonald from Lifetree Law, a good friend of mine. He wanted to hang out and be able to give you guys some information on what it's like to be an entrepreneur, in this beautiful, amazing world after COVID, as we're trying to finish this darn COVID. Michael, welcome, man. If you want, just kind of introduce yourself, let us know who you are, what you do, and I don't know what makes you, why you have pink on. How you?
Sure, sure. So as Ray said, my name is Michael McDonald. I'm an estate planning attorney. So I help people with wills and trusts and things like that. So they have the documents they need in case of, family emergencies and make sure their families are taken care of in case they're not there to take care of them.
That's right. That's right. Good deal, man. Awesome. Awesome. So tell us, we already got your name, but where you're from and where you currently live today.
Sure, sure. Actually, I'm from out west. So I grew up in Utah and Colorado primarily. A little bit,
Utah. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
Utah. Not too many people leave Utah, but I did.
I think the vice president was just in Utah. So they mentioned something about Utah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had to throw it in there because.
Yeah, it's a nice place, but like I said, I grew up there in Ogden, but I also was in California, Colorado for high school, lived in Hawaii, joined the military and spent some time in Germany. So I've kind of been bounced all over the place. Currently, I live in Pembroke Pines, and there I still have two kids in school.
Which is Florida, Pembroke Pines, Florida.
Yes, Pembroke Pines, Florida. I got
Yep.
two kids in school, middle school and high school. And
Nice.
of course, I've got six kids all together, but the rest of them are grown up and on their own.
Of course, of course, of course. Awesome, awesome. But man, man, to be an attorney these days, I don't know if I'm sure it's great. It's a professional career, but it can't be. I don't know if it's easy. It's not easy. So I'm going to ask you some questions in reference to what it's like before COVID and after COVID, and kind of give us an idea. Now, the purpose of this video is to be able for someone that's doing just kind of wants to know about business, how to start, what is the common themes, and what can help them. You know me personally, and I love to help businesses in any way I can. I'm a digital marketing, but the purpose of this is not to necessarily to talk about the business that I do. It's more about helping that someone when I was looking I need to see some kind of guidance. And again, those things. And low cost is a big deal for most startup companies, and some people have money for it, so on. So that'll be another conversation. But in the meanwhile, that's what the goal is today, So to see what does an entrepreneur look like, we don't know. I don't know. I didn't even know. I mean, I'm from a Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican, half Dominican, from the Bronx. Who would ever figure I'd have my agency, So again, and I just kept pushing, pushing, and pushing. So what made you get into your profession, and is there something hereditary? Like, what did your parents do?
Well, I forgot. I'm wearing pink because it's real men wear pink. Sometimes
Nice.
can't
There
find
you
this.
go.
Wanted
Nice.
to be sure and bring that up.
Yeah.
My parents were. My mom was Sicilian. She was from Watertown, New York, and she only had a high school education. My father was a military guy. He did 2 tours of Vietnam. I had some college education, but he worked as a civil servant until he retired. So I really didn't have that background. It was something that I was kind of drawn to. I did political science in undergrad. I kind of knew where I was going to end up, and then went to University of Florida for law school. And I always had this urge to be in a courtroom. That's just what I
Really?
wanted to do.
Was it
So
the movies? Was it the TV shows, or it was just something that you wanted to do?
it was something that I wanted to do, and it may have, it could have been TVs or movies when I was younger, but there was always a desire to, fight for the little guy, so to speak. So I became involved in criminal defense work at first, and I did that for over a decade and a half.
Wow.
So that was primarily where I started my legal career. But it was later on that I decided that I could help more by helping families. And it was kind of a nice shift in that I really appreciate working with families and businesses right now.
Nice, very nice, man. That's awesome. First, let me just you reminded me when you said it a second time. Thank you for your service, for everything you've done for our country. Appreciate people that you like you who actually take that step into our military to help out and make sure maintain our freedom. So I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart personally. When I went after 9/11, being from New York, I went to go try to actually sign up. And my ex-wife now, my wife then told me, "Are you crazy? You have kids, you have whatever, you staying, no," and I was like, so I really want I had that desire back then because of what occurred. Not family is not really big on military and stuff like that. So, but awesome, awesome, awesome. So let me ask you a question. So how did you start? Like, how did you begin this process of your own law firm? How does that happen?
Well, the first thing I would recommend anybody starting the business is before you start the business, if you have a job, do some research ahead of time, because there's a lot of things that you can do for the foundation of your business before you make that transition from your job to your business. That way you don't have kind of a dead space where you're trying to figure things out and you don't have any funds coming in.
Great point.
So that's probably the first thing I'd suggest to anybody. And but it was a great experience because you learn so much. Instead of just specializing in your area, say, even if in my experience, law, all of a sudden you've got to put on your business hat. You've got to figure out how to get your LLC. You've got to figure out how to market. You've got to figure out your website. You've got to figure out what is branding. There's so much that you have to figure out. But it's a great experience because you learn a lot. And not only that, but by learning a lot, you get to meet a lot of people. And like I said, it's just it's a growth experience. I'd recommend it to anybody.
I exactly agree 100,000% of what you just said. You don't realize that you would be the guy that's cleaning the bathrooms as well as writing the proposals as well as everything else. So people don't understand that part. They just think about, oh, we get paid,
Right,
So
right.
you don't realize that a holiday for us is actually not for us because it's a less day of business.
Right. It's a time to catch up.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, how did you start? I mean, how did you begin this process with your firm?
Well, I looked around for different types of education programs, and that's another thing I'd recommend to anybody. If there's a special area that you're looking at, there's usually some type of program that can give you a heads up as far as what it would be like or what your marketing would be like. It's not going to be the end all be all as far as your entire business plan, but it can at least give you a heads up as far as what the business is and what it's going to take to stick your toe in the water. For me, I ran into an estate planning program, which helped as far as the education piece and let me know what it was going to look like as far as, the actual business. Right. So that was a good start for me, but it wasn't nearly enough. As I mentioned before, you're wearing so many different hats that there's no one end all be all program that's going to, give you the secret sauce for everything as far as your business and how it's going to unfold.
Got it. Nice. Awesome. Thank you for that information. So, but I get it. So with that being said, you kind of just did the research as you were beginning to start and figure out what the niche is going to be.
Correct? Right. I had the niche figured out before I jumped into it.
And then you
started. There was still more. Right. There was still more to it than I thought. I thought that's why I mentioned before to do a little research and lay out some of the foundational stuff, such as your LLC and what marketing looks like, because that's a mistake that I made. I picked my niche and I said, oh, okay, this is the area of law that I want to practice in, and I'll figure out everything as I go along.
It's weird because when I started my agency, I just went into video. I didn't want to do anything else but video. But since I was not getting clients, I had no choice but to try to learn as much as I can and watching videos like these and listen to people who are doing it. Again, and that kind of gave me strength in saying, okay, I'm going to have to learn some other techniques outside of maybe making a phone call, outside of whatever. I didn't want to knock on no doors. I just did not. But what I did is during the time that I started my business, I went to work for a company selling cleaning, not supplies, cleaning. I've never in my life thought I would ever do that. Never in my life. And guess what? Because of it, it made me stronger because I had to knock on a door. I had to walk the streets, which I've never done. So it kind of gave me the opportunity to be able to learn how to be more vocal and how to be more forward and ask, hey, how are you? Mind if I leave this brochure there and leave? And it kind of gave me something that I didn't have, which is I didn't know. I knew I had charisma, in my lifetime, but I didn't know I can convey that into business. Did not know that, and that taught me then.
Yeah, that's a an interesting parallel between business and personal life, and it seems like you really grow when you make yourself get in those uncomfortable positions.
Absolutely.
Okay, those places where you don't want to go, but you that's where you grow. That's where you learn. You find out you're uncomfortable, but you maneuver through it, and you learn, and that just kind of compounds your learning curve as far as business or anything else. So,
Got it. Got it. No, absolutely. So let me
right.
ask you this. Okay, so now as I continue on, there's so here we are. I want to say that the pandemic is going away, but I can't say that because it could be a taboo, right? So let's say, before this whole COVID thing came about, and it actually taught us to do other things, right? Because of this
Right.
time we had on our hands. What was life before then? Was it like, normal, the same? Was it the struggle was as it is today, or was it easier to do business? Was it easier to, what was life like before COVID? Because after this, I'm going to ask you, what was life after COVID? In other words, during these times that were kind of somewhat, the state of Florida has opened up quite a bit. Still, people are not really meeting as much as they used to, but it is a lot more open. So what was life maybe a year ago, before COVID? What was life like for a
Are
business?
we for business? Okay, for business, since I was it was interesting because estate planning is a little bit of a different animal because a lot of people don't know what estate planning is. So a lot of it had to do with educating people as far as what estate planning was. So I would mention wills or explain the differences between wills and trusts and powers of attorney. And so that was a larger emphasis of my business and my marketing. Um, so that obviously changed after COVID hit. And it was interesting because I remember doing presentations where I would say, look, life changes, life changes and we've got to be prepared. And then all of a sudden, the Kobe Bryant incident hit and then COVID-19 hit
Right.
and life has been changing like nobody's business.
So with
So
that being said, I would imagine that during, not after, maybe you can market a little bit easier, maybe, to those people, to many, because of the fact people have died. I mean, I think there was, last count was 200 something thousand in the US. So was that accurate or not? Like, were you able to market more to people about death because not knowing about, what the states are going and so on, or no?
it's kind of fluctuated, and part of it had to do with the fact that the economy kind of at first the economy really receded, and I think everybody was on financial lockdown because they didn't know what was going on. And then after about 3 or 4 months, it started loosening up a little bit. People started getting more confidence, but at the same time, I think that their mortality turned out to be more of an issue for them. There was a sense of urgency, so I started getting more calls at that point in time. And it's fluctuated since then. But yeah, I mean, I don't have to educate people nearly as much as I had to before, as far as giving scenarios, as far as what happens if you die or you're incapacitated, and your family either needs money or they need the resources that only has your name on it.
Right, right.
So that's been a big change. There's more social awareness about estate planning right now.
Absolutely, for sure. So now during this closing point of our of this COVID thing, and I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx it, right? They say that it's dying down, or there's so many variables out there. So my question to you is, what is life now? What is life like now when it comes to business, and how to educate people, how to attract your business for other folks, especially after this whole pandemic that's gone through?
Well, it's definitely put a spin on things, a change, and that is, as everybody knows now, a lot is done through Zoom, just like we're doing right now.
Right.
And as great as Zoom is, it's still not as good, I think, as sitting down with somebody in a room, because I think there's a lot more communication that goes on besides just a picture or a video. And you can get a kind of read on your client, what their concerns are. So I kind of miss that. But at the same time, it's kind of convenient doing the Zoom, and it's safer for my clients.
So, but not to mention, you just don't know where a video like this can go, right? They may like your pink, they may like your business model, they may look at your website, and someone from across the country can say, hey, I like that guy, let me reach out to him. That can happen. So again, that being said, our new normal has become this method. I mean, it's amazing how it has, because FaceTime introduced it to us, right? With iPhones and FaceTimes and so on. It's weird because just yesterday I was watching Back to the Future. And when I was watching that movie, I remember when getting a video call, it was like, oh my, can you guys imagine that? And this is that was in, there was reference to 1985. I was like, wait a second. We are so advanced to where we are today. It's like, it's amazing, literally, man. So it's how it's opened up a lot of opopportunities.
Yeah, I
Even
had,
in my industry.
no, sorry to interrupt, but I had one of those Back to the Future moments that you're talking about. I think it was Friday when we had a video conference, and I was in my office and I was talking to you on my phone, or first my computer, then my phone, and then I walked out to my car and climbed in it and started it up, and it kept going. I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago that you could do,
Absolutely.
so yeah, life has changed, and obviously so's business.
So I guess if you were able to give yourself some advice a year ago, like what advice would you give yourself? Now, again, this is um, a year ago before COVID. We didn't know that was going to hit. It's back then, 2019. What advice would you give yourself? Not that you knew what was coming up, but now you know. So what would you go back and tell yourself if you had the opportunity, as in Back in the Future?
Yeah, I would tell myself to get up to speed as far as tech is concerned. I mean, video conferencing and technology in general, because not only do you have to learn about Zoom, but there's other platforms that you should know about. And also you need to make sure that you keep good notes. You need to be able to record conversations if the platform doesn't allow it. So yeah, organization's a big thing, and something just in general. It's not just because of COVID. Time management. I would recommend anybody get into time management and figure out how to be more efficient with their time and planning of their day, because they'll be so much more productive. And that's definitely a skill to develop.
That's funny. No, that's exactly right. It's, you think about those things and people actually take it for granted. The folks that say, I'm iPhone, I don't need a smartphone and so on. Those are actually behind the curve. Like right now with the whole eruption of Tesla and automation of driving and so on. Guess what? At one point, it's going to be normal as it is today. We literally have a vacuum cleaner. Not that I have one in my house, okay? A vacuum cleaner that actually literally goes around my house and cleans the floor. Robotics, and it's like it's normal for people. So it's just weird how America or life has changed in general. Not even just America. So life has changed, which is pretty awesome. So.
Yeah, well, there are some old school attorneys that don't type.
Right.
Okay, they don't type. They have their assistants type. They dictate. They didn't have anything to do with computers, pretty much.
Right.
And talk about being, behind the curve.
Yes, for sure.
I couldn't even imagine what that transition would be like.
Man, okay, so here we are. We're actually just about done.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm going to ask you is, so if you had $1,000, all right, to spend for your business, only for your business, so on. What would you use that $1,000 for? And again, I want you to think about the person watching this and saying, man, I wonder what he would, everyone's going to say marketing. Everyone's going to say this. I mean, those are the common answers, which is fine. If those are the answers that kind of get you along to where you want to get to, by all means. So I'm curious to hear, we're all curious to hear, what would you spend $1,000 on,
Okay. So the $1,000, I'm going to put it this way, is particular to where I'm at in my marketing program right now, which is something every business has got to figure out, because there is so many different avenues of marketing. You've got to prioritize which ones you're going to do in order to make sure that they're really effective and you don't waste money and time. So right now, the stage that I'm at, I've worked on websites and a few other different things. But right now, the stage that I'm at is Google AdWords. So that's the next thing that I want to do is put together a program. I've already done some research. And thankfully, Ray, you've helped me with that. I appreciate that. And that's next on the agenda. I think Google AdWords would be a nice component to the other marketing that I'm doing.
And that would make sense. But I will warn you something in reference to marketing with Google, is that most attorneys, not all, just most,
Hmm.
they have a huge budget on in marketing with Google. So whenever someone does a search on most categories in life, think about a flat tire. I do a search. I need to have a flat tire. I need a tire replaced. It's more like 90% success rate that someone's going to may take action on it. So, and attorneys know that. So they have poured lots of money to make sure that campaign is continuously running 24 hours a day, every second of the day, which is based off a budget that you provide into Google Ads. So again, I commend you on that. Do not, all I can tell you as far from a marketing agency standpoint is do not ever overlook SEO. The SEO portion of it is a generic growth that helps you rank and come up 2 times when is your ad as well as your website. It's just you have a second opportunity. So and most people, a lot of people, one or the other because of cost, of course. So,
Hmm.
but if you're doing your part, your due diligence, I tell you, one thing that I like when I have these conversations with people, as when I listen to myself, the hustle, Michael. The hustle is so imperative. And there are so many people that just don't understand that they think that I'm going to open a business, I'm open LLC. Okay, I have a business out in Sunbiz or whatever have you, so on. I have an S Corp, so on. They don't understand the components behind that. They do not. And I didn't understand it. I just know that I think Trump said he only paid a couple of $100 in taxes. I want that. I want to be able to have that. And this is all they understand and what they see. They don't understand the mechanics behind it of actually even getting it live and active and so on and so forth. So, um, is there anything that you want to share before we close this out?
Only that if somebody is thinking about starting a business, I want to encourage them. I mean, 1,000%, because it's where you're going to be able to, find your own creativity. It's going to be where you're going to grow. Don't expect to open a business and like people are going to come rushing through the door. Just like you're saying, there's the hustle. Okay, but the hustle is where you're going to grow. The hustle is where you're going to build your sweat equity in yourself, your company, and you're going to be much happier and much more in control of that company and your life if you do that. So yeah, there's a lot of anxiety that's involved with starting your own company and a lot of hard work. But in the end, I think it's well worth it. And like I said, I would encourage anybody to take that step.
100%, man. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time today. This was amazing. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely.
Very informative. And again, my goal is to be, I mean, I just reached over the weekend. It is Monday today. I'm at 103 subscribers, so I'm extremely excited what I've done. And I just started messing with YouTube now for a month. So just kind of playing around and hustling to make sure that, everyone that I know, that I can provide a service where they don't have to pay for it, right? They can actually get this information and we can utilize, and it'll be on the internet forever. As a
Right.
digital marketer, that's big for me. That's huge for me. So on that note, Michael, thank you so much for today. I will definitely put your information below in the bottom, just so people can, if they want to reach out to you, ask you a question, by all means, you'll be able to, you'd have the opportunity of connecting with people that are interested to hear more about your story, which is that's what the whole purpose behind this. Do you want to do a shout out with your business website? And if you have any channels, Facebook or Onset, or Instagram, do you want to share that?
Yes, it's Michael at lifetreelaw.com is my email address. Also, lifetreelaw.com is my website. I'm also coming out with an emergency USB wallet card that you can carry with you that has all of your legal documents on it. So in case of an emergency, if anything happens, the medical people will be able to pull it up. They'll know information about you personally as well as your family or what your wishes are. So that's some marketing things that I'm working on, just like what we're talking about.
Nice.
So,
Awesome.
so again, I can be reached in Pembroke Pines at 954-661-5203.
Awesome. Michael, thanks again, man. Appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
Anytime, Ray.
All
Thank
right.
you.